Okay, so I did 2 recent videos on manipulating vectors and normals, and it's still like a wide ocean to cross because it can be a little bit of a complicated subject, and it's something that I'm still furthering my own knowledge in. But that being said, I just want to show you maybe more practical knowledge rather than experimental knowledge in what you can do using vectors and normals as masks for a shader. I think it's super handy, and it creates a lot of procedural fun work that you can iterate as a designer. That's something you want. You want speed and iteration. So let's just say, for example, I kind of like using. I deleted the default cube. This is heresy. Alright, let's add that back in. Add this here, and let's add Suzanne, the monkey. Okay, so we'll just put this here, and I'm just going to construct maybe some interesting shader just to show you something. Okay, so we go back to the shader editor, we'll create new, and make sure these are linked to this shader. So I'm just going to Control L, materials. So now all of these are linked to this material. Let's put this here so we can see what we're doing. And just to make sure, blah blah blah. Okay, let me delete that because we don't need that right now. So let's create a little challenge to myself here. We want something stylized, and we want the top to have a certain color. So let's say maybe it's a dusty look, but we want to be able to change the color underneath but keep the dust the same. Okay, let's try that out now. So the first thing I think about is like stylize. Of course, I want to do the diffuse and shader to RGB. So I have diffuse, shader to RGB. Let's plug that in, and let's see what it looks like now. It looks like exactly the same thing, but that's because we can now use this. This takes the lighting information here. Okay, cool. We have the lighting information here. We want to have dust to be on top of this. Okay, so we need to use a texture coordinate, and we need to add mapping into this. Oops. Mapping, and from mapping, let's say object. Now, how does this look? Okay, generated. Let's take a look. Okay, we'll use generated instead. Now I want to split it so that the gradient is always on top, like this. Okay, so we're going to use this as a mask for combining our shaders. And we kind of want more of the darkness to go up on top. I wonder what it looks like if we do object instead. Yes, this looks like it's... And if we... Okay, perfect. I think I like this more because that gives it... Each object's the same. We can then manipulate this to see how high or low we want this dust area to be. But it's not kind of like... It looks like it's not really taking the information of the normals itself, so I kind of want to like use a vector. Oops. Vector math. Okay, and let's do normals. Alright, we're getting there, but I kind of want to manipulate it a little bit more. So object, normals. I don't want the normals to be there as much. So what can we do? We could probably add another vector. And let's see. Let's see here. We can do this and add a object again. And that looks like it normalized it. Yeah, it did. Yes. Okay. So this is kind of funky. Basically, I'm not thinking these in terms of like mathematical operations. I'm thinking it in terms of visually. And so what I've done is I wanted the geometry to dictate where the gradient would go, but the first time I did an add, it just wasn't really doing it to what I wanted it. So basically what I mean by that is, oops, let's not. You can see it's a little too sharp here, and I wanted more of a gradient, so I just kind of like plugged in the result and added object, because I know when I looked at object, if I plug this back in here just to show you, it had this nice gradient. So I wanted this to be more prominent. So I plugged, you can see the difference here. like it's darker, but if I plug this in here, you can see this that line's coming in, and I kind of like that look more. Okay, I just wanted to not get you too lost with adding this stuff, because that's how I was thinking. I just wanted more of that line there. Okay, so what else can we do here? Well, we could maybe if we have like a little dittered edge here, that'd be really appealing. And so I can think of, I can either use Voronoi, I can use noise. I'll just use noise for this purpose here. It's noise. And now I kind of need to manipulate this vector. How do I do that? Well, we can do vector add or vector math. And we can try doing this and see what that looks like. You kind of see we're already getting something interesting here. What happens if I plug this in here? Oh, we're getting something really cool now. Okay. You can kind of control it like this. And we can even further control how the noise is looking by adding a color ramp. And the reason why I'm adding a color ramp is because I kind of want it just to be black or white. Like really, really strong. Kind of like that. But actually that's not as appealing as I thought it would look like. That looks a little bit better. I'm sure we can use a mix RGB too. So if I do this, the reason why I like to use this instead, let's take a look what happens. Okay, and if we mix them in, you can see it's acting a little bit better. So if I just want some slight noise like that. Fantastic. Well, we've done our map or our mask. So if this is like a Photoshop, I've just created a mask texture. Alright, so I'm just gonna Shift P this, move this up, and I'm gonna call this mask. Let's say top mask. And let's just color this something random up here to be professional looking. So that's what our Z or Z be like here. Okay, so we still have this shader to RGB. I want this stylized, so I'm just going to use an emission for both. Emission here, and that's not picking it up. Emission here. And let's add a mix shader. And what we're going to do with the mix shader is, actually, we need to plug this in here. Oh, it's a mix, mix shader. Plug this in here. We don't need that as color. We'll plug this in here. We'll plug that there. And just to show you what we have, oops, plug that there. You can see I have this backwards. There we go. And now we can play around with this. And every time we add a new object, or if we manipulate, zoom down a bit, it'll always be on the top. Super cool. So that's like our first part. But we want it to be more modular. So let's say if we want each object to be a little slightly different. Okay. So we're going to do shader to RGB. And what we're going to do is separate this to a map range. Plug that into the value. Plug that into a mix RGB. Oops, I don't have one. I usually like to duplicate things here. Plug this in here. So what's happening here? Let's take a breather here. So I'm taking the information of shaded to RGB. So it's basically saying like, hey, this thing now is accessed. You're able to access this and change all the lighting or all the colors that you want. We can change this. So I'm going to change it to step. And you can see I am, let me just get rid of the shadows here. Okay, and let's pop this up. Okay, so I'm basically stylizing the information that the shader is giving us. It's converting what we're seeing here into 3 channels as opposed to whatever this is here, which means that we can manipulate each of the colors provided here. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a stepped ramp from the light source here to be a little more stylized. We can keep it smooth, but I like the stylization of this. And I'm stepping it, let's say 10 steps here. So you can kind of see what's happening here. It's almost like a cut out filter. That's basically what this is here. I'm cutting out a lot of the ramps of colors. But I'm also feeding it into a mix, which we can't see right now. So if I do this, you can see we're feeding it in here. We can change the colors this way. And change the colors this way. So this looks like it's the dark areas. So we make this slightly darker. And this is the light area here. And if I move this around, you can see what's happening. That's the light source. And we plug this into here and click mix RGB. Now you can see what's happening. That's really cool. It's just basically saying the information. It's creating a mask here, and this is the color. But what happens if we want a slightly different color from here to here? Well, we can just bring this up here and create another split and put this way. And now, if I change this color to something else, it should keep all the information. And we can also change this to something else, and you can see it's like mixing those two colors together. And if we really want the lighting to be, or sorry, the difference to be more extravagant, we can probably bump this noise texture way down. Let's take a look here. Oh. Yes, let's bump this constant so it's really visible like that. And if we plug this in here, you kind of see it slightly like that. Let's move it around, take a look, you can see it's happening right there. And now's the fun part where we try and get like the colors we want. So I mentioned a dust kind of look. So let's say like that. So when it hits the top, it's kind of like a nice little grading. This is actually really cool looking at this thing here. Okay. So now how do I make this modular? So we talked about that a little bit in a couple of videos. And now I've got to think about that. Where do I what is it that I wanted to make modular? I just wanted the objects underneath to be modular. We're mixing these two, so I think we can. Yeah, we don't need that. And then this is the shadow, which we can make a bit darker. And this is the color that is actually the important part. Why is it doing that? It's because these are two emissions, and it's an additive add. And also the separate is a gradient, so it's like gradating between these two colors, which we can kind of control a little bit more with color ramp. Just to show you, this is what it looks like. We can just make it a little bit more harsher like that, which then gives us room to make this a little more harsher. If you just want a slight bump like that, just looking at it from far away. And there are better ways of doing this, but I just wanted that extra challenge just to show you my mind process when I'm doing these things. Okay, so we have this, we have this, we have this. Let's see what it looks like now. Should be a little bit better. That looks like the thing I want, but in my own eyes, it's not as aesthetically pleasing as like the nice gradation that we can get going on, but that'll serve our purpose. Okay, so we have this stuff. How do we make it modular now? Well, let's say we can add this, all of this, into a group, and with this group input, hey, we need colors. We can plug this in, and we can also make it even more modular. I don't know why I duplicated that, with a hue saturation. Color, plug this in, and let's put hue, saturation, and value. Okay, so now we have this group here. Let's just call this main color. We're going to keep the dust the same. It's fine. I mean, we can change this to anything we want here. But now we're practically done. So let's give it a go. Let's go here. This is material 001. And we could just change this to master color. and we can go in here and start changing these colors here. I actually just thought of a smart way of doing this. It might be a little too advanced, but I just want to show you one way of doing this. As it stands right now, we're done. We can start creating new instances of this material. Like, okay, I want this, click this, and now I can change this, and it's a new instance, like that. And we can play around with all the shader stuff. It's really cool. However, if you want to be more efficient, and if you just want to use one single shader, what we can do is object info, and this is basically saying, hey, this is the, where are you, my friend, where are you? It's the color of the viewport display, this thing here. So if I go of the object color and we plug it in here, it should be all white. But if I change this blue, it's still using the same color, or sorry, the same shader, mask the color. We haven't created a new instance of it. You can see here, there's three uses here. So I go back here, and let's go back to the color, like this. I can make this green or something, like that. I go here, I can make this red. Let's just say for an example, and there it is. That's one way to go about stuff. And this is, again, very, very basic. What we can end up doing too is creating two kind of gradients that go on top of each other. We can add like little grass blades here. But this is just like a very, very primary setup of doing these things here. You can see like there's a nice gradient going down. We have this noise texture. We can try doing a different texture just to show you guys. We can do a checkered texture, and we can plug this boy in here, or lad. Like this in here, and that looks a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, honestly. That looks way better. Make this a bit, oh, that didn't do anything. Oh yeah, because this is a constant, so it doesn't really matter because it's remapping it. Alright. Okay, well hopefully that helps you out with like trying to set up some fun things like this. It's a really fun way to work. Actually, I kind of want to like put something on top here, like at the very, very top, we can add a different texture. So hopefully this video doesn't get too long here. Let's say, since this is all the work's already done for us, what we need to manipulate is here. We can add another mix. It'll be fed into here, unless we want a split color. We would need another top mask. Okay, that's easy to do. So we'll just copy this. I'm just gonna do this really fast, like that, and then we would need a color ramp, purely visual. Let's say just at the very tippy top. That's just the color we want. Let's do constant. So it's like this, and then we want this noise to be manipulated in here. So we're going to use a mix RGB. Okay, and so we're going to mix in, let's just use wave texture. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Be careful. Oh no. Okay. And let's put this here. And you can see what's happening, because it's grabbing this information, but we're mixing it in between these two, and since we're constant, that's what it looks like. And we can like bring the lines down a bit more. Okay, and now we add another mix RGB, or we can change the color of this. If you want to like set a color, you can just set it like that. But I like the option of being modular, so I tend to do this a lot. And I always reverse it. Okay, so let's say like that, and now we could do another mix shader. Should we do another mix shader? Oh, can we plug this into, where is it? We can plug this into here. Okay, like this. Color. Let's take a look what this looks like. And we can use a lighten. So this is going to have the green on top, and the green's going to always show no matter what, because you don't have the shader lighting information into it, but that's fine. This is just for the purposes of this. Plug this in, and now we have a texture on top. it's gonna be like very shiny because we need to add in the where is it? This boy, where are you? The shader to RGB. Ah, here. This is the, yeah, we need to add this factor in here, which I think should work. Do it like that. Nope, that's for another video then. But yeah, hopefully you learned some ways of manipulating textures with vectors and how fun it is. And keeping things really modular makes it really fun. Like, it doesn't really stop your flow, recreative flow, because I can just quickly add this guy and like, alright, new color and new color, and it's still keeping a single shader. Alright, thank you.